How do you choose the right cloud for your business? Is it Amazon? Is it Google? Is it Microsoft? Let's talk about it. One of the top questions I get asked is, which cloud should I go with? And it's not always a question that I can answer because it really depends. It depends on your situation. It depends on where you are as a business. So in this video, I want to cover 7 questions you should think about and answer before choosing a cloud provider. All right, before we jump into the questions, I want to define what this video is. What this video is about is choosing if we're going to move servers to the cloud and maybe like our productivity suite, meaning how we edit documents, how we share documents, and email. There are other decisions that you can make, line of business applications. Those are going to be specific to certain vendors. What we're looking for here is, do you choose Google? Do you choose Microsoft? Maybe Amazon as a second cloud provider. But Google and Microsoft primarily are going to be the two that we focus on because they cover email and they cover productivity in general. So now that we have that defined, let's move on to questions. The first question I would ask is, what are the needs of the business? And that's critically important because the needs for your business are different than the needs for my business or somebody else's business. So what specifically are you looking to accomplish in your business by moving to the cloud? What challenges do you have today that are a problem? Do you have aging infrastructure and you need to move it? So you have old servers, and buying new servers just sounds like a bad idea when you can go basically rent somebody else's servers and put the onus on them to replace the servers and the networking equipment, all the expensive stuff that comes back to your bottom line. So do you want it to be a capital expense? Do you want it to be an operating expense? That's the first question that you got to answer, and then you can kind of move on to the second one. The next question I would ask is, what is the planned business growth? Or is there growth? Are you contracting? If you're contracting, that's a different story. But for the most part, if you're growing, one of the things that you can look at for the cloud is, can that cloud grow with you? So if you choose a private provider, maybe they can't grow as fast as you can. But so if you choose a public one like AWS or Amazon or Azure and Microsoft or even Google Cloud, you know that they can grow with you. But also look at the other aspects of growth. If you just stay status quo and maybe you keep buying servers to put on site, or you keep buying infrastructure to put on site, if your business grows enough, it's going to be a problem. At some point, it's going to be a hindrance to your business because you don't always buy enough to support the growth of the business, meaning you're going to have to go back and spend more money in the future. And sometimes that actually costs you more than making the decision to move to maybe like the cloud or something like that up front. So again, the business growth is a really good factor to take into consideration when you're choosing to move to the cloud and who you choose to move with. The third one I would ask is, how do people work? That's critically important to understanding what type of cloud, what kind of collaboration tools you want to use. Because if you're split between some work from home and some in the office, or you exclusively work from home or exclusively in the office, that does make a difference. That requires a different level of planning. So you want to make sure you understand how people do their work and how people collaborate so that you understand which one is going to fit you best. So if you're choosing between like Google and Microsoft, between Google Workspace and Microsoft 365, how people choose to work and maybe even who you interact with outside your business is important. A prime example would be, do you typically work with Office documents? So Word, Excel, PowerPoint, is that what your customers used to? If that's the case, you probably don't want to go with Google because you're going to have some issues if you're using Google Sheets and Google Documents instead of using Office products. So that's something you need to consider before choosing which cloud you're going to go with. Number 4 is pretty simple. It's, what's your budget? Budget for everything, right? So if you buy servers and you want to put all that on there, there's probably a capital budget that you're going to have to deal with. If it's going to be more operational if you move to the cloud, or if you're hybrid, you might have some stuff on site and some stuff in the cloud. That works best for a lot of companies. But understand what your budget is, and then you can kind of go from there to make the decision of which one actually works the best for you. Budget isn't everything. It is a contributing factor, but you still have to understand like where your budget is to make sure that you can actually fit into whatever model you want to go to. Number 5 is pretty simple. What level of support do you need? Do you have internal IT? Do you not have IT? Do you have a IT company? Are they the company that's right for helping you move partially to the cloud? Maybe not. So you have to understand like what level of support that you need. If you have internal IT, maybe they have the skill set, maybe they don't. Maybe going to third party is a better play. And even if you have an IT provider, maybe finding another one to do the migration is just a better play, and then they can do the support after the fact. But that's something you need to kind of keep in consideration when choosing which cloud to go to, because if the provider you're using or your internal staff doesn't have the skill set, you're going to struggle bad, and that's not a mistake that you want to make. All right, number 6, you knew this was coming. You should have known this was coming. If you watched any of my other videos, you knew this was a question. But how are you going to secure it? That's a really good question. It's a really critical question you need to answer. Because let's say you choose Google Workspace or Microsoft 365. They're secure to a point, but you still have to change settings in there to make them more secure. The data itself is your responsibility, not theirs. So you probably need to be backing that up. Or you should be backing that up. If you move servers to one of the big 3, so Google Cloud, Amazon, Microsoft, or if you choose a third party, there's still responsibility for you to make sure that it's secure. And do you have the staff for that? Are you prepared for that? And if you're not, that's where we'll kind of go into number 7. All right, my final question to ask: how important is it to you to have a partner? And if you don't have the skill set internal, this is a very important thing to keep in mind. Again, I kind of covered it a little bit earlier, but if your internal staff or your IT company don't have the expertise to move you, maybe they're really good at managing stuff that's already stood up, or maybe they're really good at managing servers. That doesn't necessarily mean that they know how to migrate properly. So you want to make sure that you partner with a company that can bring in that skill set, that can bring in those tools to make sure it's a successful migration. Because what you don't want to do is get halfway through it and realize that, oh crap, we're in trouble. So picking a good partner is a really good way to make sure that you're going to have success with your migration. All right, that was a lot. There are more questions you can ask yourself, but those are probably the top 7 I would consider. Next week, we're going to talk about the cloud provider that we've kind of settled on. Now, we support multiple clouds, but there's one particular vendor that we work with the most, and the reason for that is because, well, never mind. I'm not going to tell you the reason. You can tune in next week. But if you have any questions, drop a comment down below, direct message us, DM us, like, subscribe, share. We're here to help. So until next time, stay cyber safe.